All right, hello. My name is Miguel Arada, and I will be talking about nutrition within school-age children. So, what exactly is a school-age child? So, a school-age child is someone who is between 6 and 12 years old in age and is generally in elementary school. This is a very critical moment in life because it sets up for puberty and adolescence. Cognitive, physical, and emotional development all occur during this time period where nutrition plays into all of them. In this presentation, I'll be talking about the nutritional needs of a school-age child, the functions of these nutrients, where these nutrients can be sourced from, malnutrition, and local support groups. So here are the most important nutrients that a school-age child may need. Here are their general functions, and I will be diving into them in more detail shortly. Zinc. So according to the National Institute of Health, zinc is involved in numerous aspects of cellular metabolism, is required for catalytic activity for approximately 100 enzymes, and is necessary for immune function, protein synthesis, wound healing, DNA synthesis, and cell division. So during this time period, obviously you're going to have children who are beating each other up and scraping each other. And so having zinc to help mediate the immune system is important so they don't get infected and suffer any lifelong consequences because of infection. Additionally, a child will be physically growing, so they need all that cellular division for those cells to grow and for the body to grow. So without zinc, these would not be possible. Zinc is also required for a proper sense of taste and smell, and zinc cannot be stored in the body, so it's important that a daily intake of zinc is had by these children. Next is iron. According to the National Institute of Health, the essential component of the heme group of hemoglobin myoglobin is composed of iron. So hemoglobin is the protein within red blood cells that carries oxygen and carbon dioxide throughout the blood. And myoglobin is what carries oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nutrients from the blood to the muscles. So obviously within this time period, you'll see school-age children exert a lot more physical activity and have a lot of passive growth, which needs blood and nutrients. So iron is very, very essential for the circulatory system development. So these nutrients and oxygen can be transferred throughout the body with no issues. Iron is also necessary for physical growth and neurological development, and it plays key roles in cellular functioning and hormone synthesis. Iron can be stored in the liver in addition to myoglobin and hemoglobin. Next up, we got folate and vitamin B12. Folate, which is vitamin B9, is necessary for genetic material synthesis and necessary for cell division, which helps the body to grow. Vitamin B12 is necessary in the formation of the central nervous system. According to the National Institute of Health, myelination of the central nervous system is developed specifically through vitamin B12. So what is myelination? Myelination is essentially the insulation of the central nervous system. It ensures that signals sent from the brain go throughout the body very quickly and effectively. And so obviously a lot of these neurons are going to be within the brain. So vitamin B12 helps promote proper development of the neurons within the brain, which also leads to proper cognitive development and emotional development. Vitamin B12 is also necessary for red blood cell formation and DNA synthesis. Carbohydrates. So carbohydrates are the body's main energy source. Carbohydrates come in many forms, but the most important form to the body is glucose. And so the child needs glucose. Glucose is essentially the only energy source that the brain will accept, and the majority of other organs throughout the body need. And so as the child is growing, they need proper amounts of glucose, which can be gained through carbohydrates to power the body. Additionally, carbohydrates are needed, specifically glucose is needed for the aerobic pathway of phosphorylation, which is essentially the production of ATP, which helps power the body's like functions, such as muscle contraction. And since a child is going to be very active at this age range, they need all the energy they can get. Fats and lipids. So fats and lipids are essential for energy production as well and serve other purposes. In addition to muscular growth, a child during this time period may experience some growth in fat, which is perfectly normal. So, what fat does, adipose tissue or fat, accumulates around the bones and around organs to protect them and provide warmth for the body. And so, it's also essential for energy production. Fats are also used in the myelination of the central nervous system, which, as said earlier, is very important for neurological development and emotional development. Proteins. So, proteins are necessary for muscular and skeletal development, which are extremely important during this time period because those are the two systems that are growing the most outside of the brain, of course. According to a study done by Lampel, Johnson, and Malcolm, children, males and females, from ages 7 to 13 were supplemented with slightly less and slightly more protein than recommended, which is 10 grams and 20 grams respectively, for 8 months. Those with more protein displayed a more developed skeletal system and muscular profile, while those with less protein displayed less than average development and muscular profile. So it just shows how important protein is to children and their physical development. And finally, we have calcium, which is the most abundant mineral in the body, but is still important as it is required for muscle function, nerve transmission, cell signaling, and hormone secretion, all of which are starting to become very important during this time period as the child begins to approach puberty. Excess calcium is stored within the bones and teeth and make up the skeletal system, which is rapidly growing during this time and throughout puberty as well. All right, now let's look at the sources of some of these. Most of these can be actually supplemented. Let's first take a look at zinc. There's a lot of zinc specifically in oysters. Most seafoods contain a significant amount of zinc as well. Most meats also have zinc in them. It can be an issue in places of poverty as access to fresh meat and seafood is not readily available. Iron, which can be split into two groups, heme iron and non-heme iron, is found primarily in meats and plants. Heme iron, which is found within hemoglobin and myoglobin, is easily processed by the body, whereas non-heme iron, which most dietary iron is found in, is processed a bit less effectively by the body. Heme iron is found especially in liver and kidney meats, whereas non-heme iron is found in many plant products such as lentils, beans, and spinach. Next, we got folate and vitamin B12. Folate, which is vitamin B9, and vitamin B12 sometimes occur naturally together. Folate can be found in dark leafy green vegetables, fruits, nuts, beans, peas, salmon, eggs, and dairy products, whereas vitamin B12 occurs naturally within meats, including fish, poultry, eggs, and dairy products. But it should be noted children on a plant-based diet, or if they have dietary restrictions that exclude meat, may need to supplement their B vitamins, particularly B12. Next, we have carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are found in all grains and tubers, such as potatoes and yams. Additionally, carbohydrates can be found in some of their more pure forms in sugary beverages and sugary substances. Fats can be found in most meats, oils, and some fruits and vegetables. Some in particular that you should note are fish and avocados because they have omega-3 fatty acids, which help lower the risk for cardiovascular disease and promote healthy heart functions. Proteins can be found in essentially all meats, but are primarily found in lean meats such as venison, turkey, and chicken breast. They can also be found in seafood such as tuna, salmon, trout, and shellfish. They can be found in non-meat sources as well, such as legumes and beans, and can be supplemented through powders. Calcium can be found in many or nearly all dairy products. It can be found in some dark leafy green vegetables such as spinach, and seeds such as sunflower seeds and quinoa. Now I will transition to childhood starvation. According to the World Hunger Education Service, 5.6 million children under the age of 5 died in 2016. Approximately 3.1 million children die from undernutrition each year. 66 million school-aged children attend classes hungry across the developing world. And childhood hunger generally goes as a cycle. And starvation can lead to some malnutrition side effects. Two in particular being kwashiorkor and folate and vitamin B12 deficiency. Kwashiorkor is generally occurs in low income areas in third world countries where access to a properly diverse food selection is not available. According to the United Kingdom National Health Service, kwashiorkor is caused by not consuming enough protein and essential vitamins. The liver does not have enough amino acids to properly create blood proteins such as albumin, so water leaks out, creating an edema or swelling in the abdominal cavity. Symptoms include loss of muscle mass, easily reoccurring infections, inflamed skin, dry, brittle hair, and cracked nails. Treatments can include glucose, vitamin, protein, and mineral supplements, treating infections and slowly increasing the amount of calories consumed. Folate and vitamin B12 deficiency can be caused by a lack of meat. According to Maureen Black in the article, The Effects of Vitamin B12 and Folate Deficiency on Brain Development in Children, childhood deficiencies of folate and vitamin B12 can create abnormal behaviors during adolescence. Deficiencies during middle childhood can lead to adult depression and anxiety. Cognition, social development, and depressive symptoms occurred during these deficiencies as well. On the other hand, we have childhood obesity, which is an epidemic within America and many other developing worlds or developing countries. According to the CDC, it has affected over 14.4 million children aged 2 to 19 in the US and has a 20.3% prevalence rate among all 6 to 11-year-olds. Generally, you'll see a prevalence of obesity. It increases as the education of the adults decrease within the household. So you have the two extremes, childhood starvation and childhood obesity. So as for my two programs, I chose St. Vincent de Paul, which I personally have worked at. It's a Catholic parish within San Francisco, and it aims to provide fresh food and freshly prepared food to those who cannot afford food or cannot find it. There's no questions asked. You get 3 tickets per day and you can eat whenever you want. And so I think it's a really good thing because it enables low-income families to provide their children with the proper nutrients they need to function, so that maybe one day they might be able to move out of that low-income bracket. The other community source I chose was the San Francisco Marin Food Bank, which helps sources the food to St. Vincent de Paul. And it has satellite stations, which essentially work the same way as St. Vincent de Paul, where it provides food for lower income families or they can't afford it. No questions are asked either, although food is not prepared, they have to prepare it themselves. Thank you for listening.